Today, our mission is to really dig into something pretty significant. Major new policies at the Department of Defense that are changing how the press gets access and, critically, how they can use information.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about classified secrets, which, is standard.
Right.
This is about restricting information that's unclassified but hasn't been officially authorized for release.
That's the core of it, isn't it? The really startling part. For years, covering the Pentagon meant protecting classified info, vetting sources, standard journalistic practice.
Exactly. But now it seems they're being asked to filter actual facts based on whether they've been approved. We've got policy docs, official statements, news reports.
All detailing these new rules. And they seem to fundamentally redefine what transparency means there.
Absolutely. We've been looking through key excerpts, and it's clear this isn't just like a minor inconvenience for reporters. It feels like it rewrites the whole agreement between the Pentagon and the press corps.
So our goal for you, listening in, is to unpack what these new rules actually mean. What are the implications for accountability for the information you get from this huge government institution? Let's start with the main document that's driving all this.
Okay, so it really centers around this one pretty restrictive document. They're calling it the Journalist's Pledge.
A pledge.
Yeah, and according to sources like the Washington Post, who got hold of these materials, journalists who want to cover the Pentagon now have to sign this comprehensive 17-page pledge.
17 pages, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds less like a press pass agreement and more like, I don't know, a legal compliance document or something.
It's definitely substantial. And the core restriction in it is, well, frankly, it's unprecedented in this context.
Okay, what is it?
Reporters have to explicitly agree not to use unauthorized information in their reporting.
Okay, unauthorized.
And this is the kicker this applies, even if that information is totally unclassified and factually correct.
Wait, so let me get this straight. If I'm a reporter and I find, say, a chart showing cost overruns on some weapons program, It's not classified, it's accurate data, but it hasn't been officially put out by a spokesperson.
Right.
This pledge forces me to just ignore it. I can't report it.
That's what the pledge demands, yes. If it hasn't been cleared by an authorizing official, you've agreed not to use it.
But why? If it's factual, if it's not a secret, why does it need a bureaucratic sign-off before the public can know?
Well, that's the huge question this policy raises, isn't it? It suggests the goal isn't just protecting secrets anymore. It seems to be about getting a government stamp of approval on all facts related to the department.
So the department controls the narrative by controlling the timing, even of public facts.
It seems that way. It shifts the authority entirely to the institution. They decide when or if unclassified information becomes reportable.
And it's not just about controlling the content, right? The pledge also brings in these operational limits, restricting where reporters can actually go inside the building.
Yes, that's another key part, often overlooked, but really critical. Restricting physical movement. Well, it changes the whole dynamic of reporting there.
How so? What does limiting movement actually stop?
It effectively kills the accidental scoop. The chance encounter in the hallway, bumping into an analyst or an officer who might offer a different perspective or context.
The informal access.
Exactly. The Pentagon is massive. Those informal chats are often where really important critical stories start. Without the ability to roam, you lose that.
So you can't easily talk to someone who isn't an official spokesperson. It sort of eliminates the possibility of finding those nuanced, maybe dissenting, independent voices.
Pretty much. If you can't move around freely, you mostly talk to the people the department officially puts in front of you. That's a huge level of information curation.
It gives them near total control over the sourcing environment inside the building.
That's the potential impact, yes.
And the stakes here are high. What if a reporter or a whole news outlet says, no, these restrictions go too far, we're not signing this 17-page pledge?
The consequences are immediate and stark. Refusing to sign, or even just being deemed a security risk by the department, means you lose your press credentials.
Just like that.
Just like that. You shut out. No access to the building, period.
Wow. And yet, the policy itself, the language they use, they try to frame it as reasonable, don't they? Claiming they're still committed to transparency.
Oh, absolutely. The official policy statement includes language like, Dow remains committed to transparency to promote accountability and public trust.
Okay. But then comes the but.
Right. It continues. However, Dow information must be approved for public release by an appropriate authorizing official before it is released, even if it is unclassified.
So they're using the word transparency, but defining it as the controlled release of approved information only. It sounds like the opposite of transparency as most people understand it.
It certainly redefines it. Transparency here isn't about the free flow of accurate information. It's about information that is passed through an official authorization filter.
It feels like they're flipping the burden of proof. Instead of the government needing to justify secrecy, the press needs government permission even for non-secret facts.
That's a good way to put it. It suggests this institutional desire for complete informational alignment.
Okay, let's talk about the context here. The leadership driving this. The sources we looked at mention a really important detail that kind of frames all this: the renaming of the DoD.
Right. The Department of Defense becoming the Department of War, or DOW. This was apparently done via an executive order from President Trump.
Though it's important to add the caveat mentioned, a permanent statutory name change actually needs Congress to approve it.
True. But even as an executive action, that name change itself sends a pretty strong symbolic message, doesn't it? It suggests a maybe more aggressive, more centralized approach.
And that seems to align with the person pushing these press policies, the Secretary, Pete Hegseth.
Yes, Secretary Hegseth. His track record, even before this, showed a real focus on clamping down on unauthorized information.
Didn't he threaten polygraphs for employees over leaks previously?
He did. There were reports about threatening polygraph tests for Pentagon staff suspect of leaking. So these new press rules, well, they feel like a logical extension of that mindset, aimed now at the media.
Cementing this high-pressure, zero-tolerance environment for information flow.
It certainly fits that pattern. And Hegseth wasn't shy about defending these new rules publicly. He used social media quite directly.
Yeah, that tweet was something. He said, "The press is no longer allowed to roam the halls of a secure facility, wear a badge and follow the rules, or go home."
Pretty blunt.
Very blunt. It's a stark challenge to how the press has traditionally operated there as a kind of independent watchdog.
That's the direct confrontational message. But then you contrast that with the official spokesperson's justification.
Right, Sean Parnell. His framing was quite different.
Completely different tone. Parnell presented it all as just standard procedure, basically. He described the changes as basic common sense guidelines to protect sensitive information, as well as the protection of national security and the safety of all who work at the Pentagon.
So you get this hardline rhetoric from the top, and then the official statement wraps it in the language of common sense and security.
It's a classic approach, really, using security concerns, which are obviously legitimate in a place like the Pentagon, to justify measures that also significantly increase control over the narrative.
Framing journalistic scrutiny itself as potentially risky.
That seems to be the underlying argument, yes. That tight control is necessary for safety.
Okay, so we've got the policy, the pledge, the leadership context. Let's shift now to the actual practical impact. What's changing on the ground? The Washington Post had reporting on this, right? About who actually gets office space inside the Pentagon now.
Yes, and this is where you see the policy translating into, well, physical reality. It shows the administration isn't just changing rules, they're actively restructuring the media presence inside the building.
How so?
Well, according to the reports, traditional news outlets, the ones sometimes known for more critical or adversarial reporting, the New York Times was specifically mentioned, have actually been removed from their Pentagon offices.
Removed entirely. Their physical space is gone.
That's what's reported. And those offices didn't just sit empty.
Ah. So who moved in?
Newer, often more ideologically aligned organizations. Newsmax and Breitbart were the ones explicitly named as being brought in to occupy those prime Pentagon office spots.
Okay, so that connects all the dots, doesn't it? This is the so what for you listening. You have the pledge restricting the content journalists can report.
Right, only authorized facts.
And then you had this physical restructuring influencing who gets privileged access in the first place, removing outlets like The Times, bringing in outlets like Newsmax.
Exactly. When you put those two pieces together, controlling what can be reported and curating who is there to report it, you get a potentially very comprehensive system of information control.
So you limit the chance of unwanted content getting out by making journalists self-censor unclassified info through the pledge. And you limit problematic sources by swapping out traditional media for more supportive outlets with prime physical access.
It creates the potential for a closed loop. You minimize the risk of critical, fact-based reporting that hasn't been pre-approved, while maximizing the opportunity for favorable coverage from friendly organizations granted inside access.
It's not just a security measure then. It functions as an information selection mechanism. Friendly outlets, operating under rules that discourage independent fact-finding. that could create a guaranteed favorable narrative.
That's the implication, yes. Control over the pipeline and control over who has access to the pipeline's input. It effectively builds a controlled media environment within one of the government's most powerful departments.
A media bubble, essentially.
That sums it up pretty well. So we've taken a deep dive today into these policies, the pledge requiring journalists to police unclassified facts.
Alongside this explicit political reshaping of who gets media access inside the building.
And the justification is all framed around security and common sense, while the effect seems to be a real clampdown on journalistic independence and potentially accountability.
We've seen how this idea of needing authorization now extends even to basic unclassified facts.
Establishing what really looks like a total information control model for the press corps working there.
Which leaves us, and you, with a final, pretty critical question to think about. If public accountability depends on the press being able to find, verify, and report factual information, whether the government finds it convenient or not.
Right.
What does it mean for democracy when a powerful department like this extends its authorization process to cover even unclassified facts? What happens when it effectively tries to gain a monopoly on defining the reality presented to the public?
A really profound question to consider as these rules take hold. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.